Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage. I hope you're well. I'm Leslie Watkins and today is Paper Crafting Saturday and tomorrow's Mother's Day. So I thought it would be really fun to make a Mother's Day card. On Wednesday I painted a little watercolor with some daffodils and I told you I would be using it to make a card with, so that's what we're going to do. My mother sadly has passed away and I miss her all the time, and I thought that even though she's not here for me to give the card to, I thought it would be nice to make a card for her and just spend a little while reflecting on her and thinking about her today. So that's what I'm going to do, and that might be something that you'd like to do as well. So let's turn you down and we'll get started. I'm going to be using the sentiment from Very Versailles, Always Thinking of You. I love this script, and this is a set that really appeals to me. I find it very inspirational. I'm going to do a lot more with this set going forward. But for today, we're just going to be using the sentiment. And this is the little watercolor that I did on Wednesday. Just a quick, loose, no sketch, wet and wet watercolor inspired by daffodils. Sadly, this morning all my daffodils were covered with snow here in the icebox of Connecticut. It's even though it's May 9th, it's 30-something degrees outside. I've got the fire going. I don't know where spring is. Persephone is stuck underground. And I've got some thick, very vanilla cardstock for my card base. I've got some Highland Heather, and I've got some Daffodil Delight. And I thought those all went nicely together. I also have this beautiful ribbon. It's called, what is it called? It's called the Ruched Ribbon, and it is in Daffodil Delight, so it matches perfectly with the cardstock, and it's really very, very pretty. It's just the right width, and it has this lovely little puckery texture to it, which I love. And we will be using this punch, Label Me Fancy, and this is the one that has the little hole that you can punch for putting string through, and the slot so that you could thread ribbon through. And the reason why I like it is because of the width and the square edge. So this is going to act as my stopper today. And I think that's about it for supplies. We're going to be using a lot of different adhesives. So I've got my double-sided tape here. I've got my glue dots. I've got Stampin' Dimensionals. And I've got my liquid multi-purpose glue. We're going to use all of those. And I think this will be a great opportunity for you to see why it's good to have all of these on hand, because they all do very specific different things. And next to me on my desk, I've got my cute little Moroccan tea glass with my tools. These are my essential tools. I've got a bone folder, a little ruler. I've got a piercing tool. Sadly, this tool has been retired. I use it constantly, but there is something else available called the Take Your Pick tool, which also has a nice pointy tip to it, and my indispensable snips. So these things are always right next to me. I've got my trimmer, which I'll use to cut some of the cardstock. A lot of it I've already cut for you. And today I'm going to be showing you how to use a die cutting machine, which I don't think we've done a lot of before. And the machine I have is the older black model, and in the upcoming new Stampin' Up! Catalog, which is coming out in June, there will be a new die cutting machine, a beautiful white one. And what's really exciting is that there's going to be a little tiny mini one as well, so that you can take that along with you when you're going to a crop or to a friend's house to craft or whatever. Just keep right by your desk. So looking forward to seeing that. So the idea for this card, you may remember this one. We're going to do something very much like this. This is called an easel card, and it folds flat. Let me see, do I have an envelope handy? Yeah. So here's a standard envelope, so you can see it fits perfectly in there. And you have the opportunity to not only display your little watercolor study, but also put a sentiment on the front of the card. I have a kind of a variation on a theme here. This is a double. So here you have your easel fold with the 3D flower decorations, but it also opens up, so you can write your note in there. These are the dimensions. This is the thick berry vanilla. So this is an 8.5 by 5 1/4 half sheet of cardstock, and I've got it scored in the middle at 4 1/4, and then scored again at 2 1/8. So let's do that. So here's 4 1/4, and I'm using my scoring blade, and then I'm also going to score this at 2 1/8. So we end up with this very simple configuration that's very effective for displaying your watercolor or your decoration. It could be a stamped image, whatever it is that you'd like to have on display, because the recipient can then put this on their desk or their mantle, wherever they like, so that they can see it and be reminded that you cared enough about them to send them this beautiful card. So give it a good press with your bone folder. Good crease. And then I have these mats in the Daffodil Delight. So this mat's going to fit on the inside here, and it is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm just using my multi-purpose liquid glue. Put that down. Like so. And then on the front of the card, I'm going to add these two pieces. So this one is 1 7/8 wide, also by 5 1/4. For some reason, it's easier for me to get my mats centered nicely when I do it sideways. It helps me to see what I'm doing better. There we go. Okay, so that's our base, and it already has a nice heft to it, which I really like. I'm a fan of something that just feels good and solid. I don't like it when the cards feel flimsy. There we go. And what I want to do with my image is I want to cut it out. So I have somewhere here, I have the positive thought set that comes with these dies called Nature's Thoughts, and I love this shape, and I love the detail on the edges of this particular die, and it fits perfectly here. So I'm going to grab the Big Shot. I'm going to place my watercolor in there and frame my image the way I like it. That looks pretty good. Add the cutting mat. Oops, run that through. And you can see, I hope you can see, that beautiful detail around the edge. Now, we're going to come back to the die cutting machine in a minute, but before we do, what I'd like to do here, let's just measure. So I want to put a little contrasting edge to this. So I want to be a little bit bigger. And you can just sort of eyeball it like this and decide what works best with your image. So I'm looking for that kind of an effect. So if I just grab my ruler and take a look at that, I think 4 5/8. Well, maybe that's a little too much. Let me see. I'm going to try 4 1/2. Yeah, good. Okay, so 4 1/2 that way, and this is going to be 3 the other way. Okay, that's perfect. And now for the yellow mat, the Daffodil Delight, that was 4.5, so let's make this 4 3/4. Let's go this way first. So 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. Double check that. Okay. There we go. So this week has been kind of crazy in the garden. I've gone from putting up my peony hoops and hardening off seedlings to shoveling snow. Well, maybe that's an exaggeration. I don't have to shovel the snow, but there is snow. I think the ground is warm enough that it's just going to melt away. But the chickens don't like it. Okay, so I like using the contrasting colors as a background mat because it gives the effect of a little French mat, and it finishes it so nicely. So let's give that a little burnish. There we go. Now this is going to get mounted on our card like so. And I want it to be centered when the card is closed, which means that I'm only going to be putting glue along the lower portion of the image here. Okay. Now, I don't mind if the image is slightly higher, and it gives me this nice even border around the top and the 2 sides. And it gives me a little bit of an extra space on the bottom. And that's because the stopper is going to come up slightly to hold that in place. And that little extra weight at the bottom also helps the image to sit nicely on the card. So there's that. The next thing I want to do is make the stopper. So here I have a scrap piece of Very Vanilla, and I'm just going to grab a little punch of that. I have one already here. I'm going to double that up. you don't really need to do this. I like to do it because I like for this to have a to be a little stronger, because it's going to be supporting the card, but you could probably get away with just one layer. And then what we're going to do is stamp our sentiment. So I'm using some Mossy Meadow for this. And now I have these rectangle stitch dies, and I'm going to use 2 of these long ones because I want them to kind of nest into one another. Okay. So I'm going to take the smaller one, and it's going to be a little bit tight, but it'll be fine. So get that in there. There's our sentiment with the beautiful stitched edging. Then I'm taking my bigger frame, and I'm going to use the Highland Heather to mat that sentiment. There we go. I probably should have put that in an angle, but that's okay. So that's going to go down here, but I want to add some of that beautiful ribbon to it. So if I take the double-sided tape, I want to make sure I put this on the bottom of the sentiment like so. Peel that backing away. Now I'm taking my ruched ribbon, and I'm adhering that to the back of that tape, and that's going to hold it in place. And then I'm just going to tie a little bow onto the front. Okay, this is the hardest part of the whole procedure right here, is getting the bow tied. There we go. Now I'm going to use a glue dot to keep that in place. Here we go. Oops. I'm going to get that underneath there in the center. And then I'm going to take two more. And I'm just sort of curling that up a little bit. And I'm going to fix these, the two sides of the bow where I want them. I'm not crazy about my bow, but you can spend more time than I can fussing with it. So I'm just going to get that sort of where I want it. You know what? This bow is not making me happy right now. There we go. It's better. Okay. Trim the ends. And now I'm just going to glue that down to my base. Like so. And then I'm going to take my dimensionals and I'm going to put 2 on the bottom of my label. I'm going to put a little bit of glue here. Get that straightened out. Now I just want to get that centered in there and straight. And that's our card. I think we could put a little bit of bling on there. Let me see, what do I have here? Here's some, what are these called? These are the gold glimmer enamel dots. Let's grab a couple of those. So I'm just going to get one of these smaller ones. I guess that's a medium one there. And then one of these tiny ones. And just put that there. Okay, everybody. So I hope that gives you some ideas of how you might want to make a nice card, either for Mother's Day or a birthday, or just because you miss somebody. as a nice little remembrance. So thank you so much for joining me. I had a lot of fun with this card, and I'm going to spend the rest of the day doing my errands around here and just sort of reminiscing about my mom, who I miss very much. And I will be back on Monday with Marvelous Monday, and I don't know what's going to happen, but it'll be something, so I hope you'll join me live here at 12 noon, and again on Wednesday for Watercolor Wednesday. So enjoy your day, stay home, stay safe, and stay creative, and I'll see you soon. Please subscribe to Notes from Dandelion Cottage on my website, and you will receive a schedule of all of my upcoming online classes. And, well, I guess that's all for now. Take care. Bye-bye.